Severe weather warnings across the News 5 area tonight. This is a live look at State Street, just getting pummeled right now as the storm sweeps its way into Bristol after going through Kingsport. The storm has caused downed trees in Southwest Virginia, power outages across the Tri-Cities. Thanks for joining us for News 5 tonight at 11. I'm PJ Johnson. Our Storm Track 5 weather team is on top of this system. We're going to start with Chief Meteorologist Dave Dirks. Dave?
Hey, PJ, yeah, we're going to start with that weather camera from downtown Bristol as well. That is State Street. The rain is coming down. The wind is blowing pretty good as well. And the severe thunderstorm warning remains in effect for a good portion of the Tri-Cities area at this hour. The severe thunderstorm warning remains in effect until 11:15. So for about another 15 minutes or so for Washington County, Virginia, at least from Bristol westward, Sullivan County, much of Washington County, Tennessee, and Greene County. The new warning that we broke into just a little while ago has extended that warning until 11:45, and that includes the southeast part of Washington County, Virginia, around Damascus, Johnson County, Carter County, Unicoi County, and also now into the North Carolina mountains, including Avery County, Madison County, Yancey, and Mitchell counties as well. So that is the current warning activity that we have for you now. Power 5 Doppler radar showing a powerful line of storms that has been racing from northwest to southeast across our area. The main danger has been and continues to be strong winds. It's not necessarily a big hail producer, probably some small, maybe up to penny-sized hail at best with these storms. But notice the deeper colors of red here. Those are the heavier rains, and right near and preceding the arrival of the heavier rain is where the stronger winds have been. Estimating maybe 60, 70 mile per hour gusts in spots, not everywhere, but we could have seen some gusts over 60 miles per hour as it came through the Kingsport area, now moving through Bristol area, Benhams of Washington County, Virginia, still to the west of Abingdon, but heads up here on South Holston Lake, also Watauga Lake. You can see some big rains now down through 11E, 19E, Bluff City, near Elizabethton now, Hunter in Carter County, coming through the Johnson City area as well. The heavier part appears to be now just to the southeast of Jonesboro in Washington County, Tennessee. Lamar now getting some heavy rains, also extending back towards South Central, and in Greene County we got some downpours around Greenville. Not probably as heavy or intense weather here in Greene County. Still some strong gusty winds though around Tusculum and Alexander Mill, DeBusk and areas around Raider, and also Mossheim getting some heavy rain at this hour as well. But joining me now is meteorologist Ricky Matthews. You have been with me all night long, and we've been kind of amazed at how fast these storms have been moving and the wind that they've been producing, causing power outages and tree damage across the region.
Yeah, Dave, this is what's known as an MCS, or a thunderstorm complex, that has strong gusty winds on the leading edge of those storms. Usually once the first little batch of storms comes through, you're not going to have a huge wind threat after that initial little area of rain and wind. Let's show you this kind of a loop here over the past couple of hours. This is going to go for the past hour across our region. And you notice how much lightning is with this storm as well, right here on the leading edge. And this entire thunderstorm complex has a history of producing those gusty winds. It formed really in Kentucky earlier tonight, and then it's raced all the way into our area. So what we're going to do is we're going to show you where all these warnings are and then where this storm is heading. This storm is racing off to the south and east around 35 miles per hour. So if we take it off to the south and east around 35, that's going to put it into areas here in North Carolina here in about an hour or so. And then into the North Carolina high country, or Tennessee mountains, excuse me, in a much shorter time. So here's the storm track. Abingdon, 11:14, about 15 minutes before this comes in. Rome Mountain, 11:17. Damascus coming in around 11:30. We're looking for areas around Boone, 11:52, and areas around Jonas Ridge around 12:05. So as these storms race off to the south and east, the main threat with these are going to be those strong gusty winds. And those are going to occur here on the leading edge. We've got some reports of these storms producing heavy damage across parts of Lee County earlier, with some strong damaging winds taking down some trees, power outages in the Kingsport area. And as they move into parts of the high country here, this is going to be similar to some of those storms we had in July a couple years ago that produced that amount of wind damage across Watauga Lake. Not saying it's going to be as serious as that was. That was a pretty rare event, but certainly will have the potential to produce some strong gusty winds as they move through these areas. So as we watch these storms diving off to the south and east here, I want to go through a few different things here. I'm going to switch over to our velocity products, and we're going to see if we can show you some of the winds with this. And we'll try to zoom in a little bit closer. But you can kind of see on the wide view where all the winds are. They're right here in the storms. So zooming in closer here, we're going to show you where some of the strongest winds may be. That's right here on the leading edge. So Hampton, you're pretty much going to get the winds right about now. Butler, Roan Mountain, it's time to take cover from these storms as they move towards your direction, because they're going to be on your doorstep here in just about 10 to 15 minutes. Dave, we've been watching these as they move through, and a lot of what we've been seeing is a pretty prolific amount of lightning with these as well. I'm going to turn back on our lightning tracker, and we're going to see if we can query these for you, and we're going to see how much lightning has been produced by these storms across the area.
Indeed, a lot of lightning, Ricky, that's for sure, and the wind that you were talking about as well. But as far as how many cloud-to-ground lightning strikes that we've seen during the past 10 minutes, you can see within the box here that we have had about 128 lightning strikes stretching from the Washington County, Virginia area down through now just to the east of Johnson City into the Elizabethton area, into areas of Greene County and Cott County. It's pretty intense lightning in those areas as well. Just within this zone right here where we've got the heavier rains now moving through Elizabethton and extending up northward to just east of Piney Flats up towards South Holston Lake, the Bristol area. We've had about 23, and this is a much smaller area, cloud-to-ground lightning strikes than the larger one that we just did. So dangerous lightning is still quite likely as these storms move into Carter County. As Ricky mentioned, we'll be looking into the Hampton area and Roan Mountain shortly, Elk Mills, Butler, Shady, up towards Shady Valley, Highway 421 near Mountain City and Trade. These storms moving off to the east and pretty quickly too, about 35 to 40 miles per hour. Again, we're looking at live from downtown Bristol. The heavy rain still coming down. This is from our Home Trust Bank camera. Seems like the wind may have died down a little bit. The heavier rain seems to have lessened a little bit as well. But certainly the leading edge of these showers and storms are bringing some, at least for a short period of time, some gusty winds.
Side. Those are some waves on Watauga Lake. Don't see those very often, but the wind actually pushing the water and causing some of those waves to occur. Our camera's going to move around a little bit. We actually don't have control of this camera, but you notice some of the waves here hitting against the dock with this storm rolling through there. We'll see if we can take a look at a couple different cameras across the area. We're going to try to load up our Elizabethton cameras. It's going to be
obviously not good to be on the lakes. Boats in dock, that's for sure right now, as these storms come across the area. Of course, the similar conditions likely affecting South Holston Lake as well in Sullivan County and Washington County. But the storms don't produce the strong damaging wind potential for very long, but they certainly have had the history of knocking down some trees and power lines as they've been moving across the area. Right now you can see the storm stretching from about South Holston Lake to near Hunter. That's where the stronger winds are probably at this hour, along with the heavier rain and lightning.
I want to point out something here on this map. From South Holston Lake down into parts of Carter County. See that little spot there of pink? What that tells me is that this is a little bit of an individual storm inside a big line of storms. And what happens here is this little storm goes up, right? And everything that goes up in the atmosphere has to come down. So the more water, the more energy the storm pushes up into the atmosphere, the more power it has as it eventually comes back down to the ground. So areas just to the south of South Holston Lake here, near the dam, I would expect some strong gusty winds with this area as this continues to move off to the east. Same thing for Shady Valley into parts of Johnson County. I would seriously consider taking shelter there in Shady Valley as this storm moves off towards the east, because as it goes up, it's going to take all that energy, water with it, and it's going to come smashing back down towards the ground.
Hey, Ricky,
I'm going to do a downburst gusty winds. Dave?
I'm going to go do a 3D slice here if I can. Stop this for just a second.
Sometimes our 3D slices have been a little finicky this week, so we'll see if it
we
wants
can
to come across.
I don't know what just happened there, but let me try.
And you notice behind all these storms here, too, eventually, once we get through that kind of leading edge, we will calm down a little bit. So while we're watching probably through the next 30, 45 minutes across northeast Tennessee for these strong gusty winds and the strongest parts of the storms, after this initial band moves through, we're going to be calm for a while. We may see some more storms later tonight. We'll have to keep an eye on that. And same thing tomorrow. We could even see some more strong to severe storms as this very unusual storm system. This is more of a spring-like weather pattern in the month of July, and it's got a lot of energy associated with it. So as a result, we're seeing some of the strong gusty winds pushing through the area with this line of storms.
Yeah, it's being kind of finicky here. It's not wanting to do the 3D.
Let's see what we can do.
We could...
We'll zoom in a little bit closer here. Let's see if we can throw a 3D track on it. So here, if we swing the camera around, what you're going to notice here now is how tall these storms are getting. And they're not incredibly tall, Dave, but they certainly have a good amount of energy with them. You know, they go up to around 30,000 feet or so here. Pretty well organized in the bottom levels of the atmosphere, all the way up to about 10 to 15,000 feet. So a lot of rain, a lot of stuff up in the atmosphere here that's being pushed down towards the ground as these storms come through the area. And when they continue to move to the east, the main threat's going to be those strong gusty winds. They're not really tall enough to be hail producers tonight. The freezing level a little bit higher up. Could see some small hail, but I don't think the threat for large hail is really with these storms. The other thing that's been pretty low tonight has been the tornado risk, and that's because this is in a line of storms instead of kind of individual cells that we call supercells. With these lines of storms, you can every once in a while get a quick spin-up tornado. However, if they do occur, they're usually pretty weak. And in this line segment here, especially since it's bowing out and it's not kind of looking like an S wave, if it were to look more like a snake, we'd be worried. But since it's kind of bowed out like this, what this tells us is that the main threat is those strong, gusty winds. Dave, can we put a storm track on this for you, if you would, please? And so this is going to be moving into the high country here, Johnson County and parts of Carter County very, very soon. And so I'm going to say probably you have about another 15, maybe 20 minutes before this moves into parts of Rome Mountain. Putting a storm track on here, moving off to the east around 35 miles per hour. That's going to put it into Rome Mountain around 11:15. It's about 5 minutes for Rome Mountain. Newland across the state line around 11:43. Boone coming up here at 11:49. No severe thunderstorm warning yet for Boone, but I would expect it to come out very, very soon as these storms continue to race off towards the east.
Yeah, and Ricky, one thing we need to keep an eye on as well is the potential for more storms coming in behind this line. We're looking at the tornado watch that really is not going to be necessary for any of our area anymore, it doesn't look like, as far as this line of storms. Let me go ahead and have the clicker there and talk about what is coming in behind this, because this is maybe just round one. You can see the broad swath of severe thunderstorm warnings that are moving through East Tennessee and into western North Carolina. But once this comes through, at least initially, this band of storms, as it moves out, that's going to end the severe threat, at least for the time being. But there's other activity that has been developing back to the northwest across portions of Kentucky. Now, you notice how some of these storms that were developing maybe an hour ago near the Ohio River were strong to severe. Notice how they've kind of weakened and turned into more of a stratiform rain or a general rain. They're encountering an air mass that has been worked over previously by a lot of thunderstorms. So this may actually help us, what we have coming through now, help to stabilize our atmosphere a little bit so that when this activity gets to us later on tonight, perhaps it won't be as strong as it is now, but there are numerous warnings west of Lexington, south of Louisville, with this little area of storms continuing to track southward through western and northwestern portions of Kentucky. So this, as I mentioned, round one coming through now. We'll have to keep an eye on what is moving across this part of Kentucky, because this is moving southeastward, much like the initial line coming through now did as it developed in Kentucky a few hours ago. So we got you're not necessarily out of the woods, I guess is what I'm saying. As we go through the next several hours, we could see some activity push back in from the northwest. But for now, I'm going to go ahead and throw it back to PJ, and we'll continue to monitor the situation and bring any new updates as we get them.